Hi everyone, this is Adam GSC and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of my Eurovision 2025 semi-final running order predictions, where I'm going to predict the running order of the second semi-final. Obviously the running order for both semi-finals will be out to this point, and just like part 1, I will also include my initial reaction to the official running order later on in this video. Before I begin with this video, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe and leave a comment down below. The way I'm going to talk about my predictions is to look at the first and the second half individually. Then I will look at all the automatic qualifiers who are voting in the semi and decide where in the running order they should perform. Firstly, let's look at the countries who will be performing in the first half. And these countries are Austria, Lithuania, Armenia, Montenegro, Greece, Ireland, Australia and Latvia. The song I chose to open the second semi-final is Ireland with Like a Party by Emmy. Considering that I am Irish myself, I'm going to give this a bit of a deeper analysis to see how this would affect Ireland's chances in Eurovision this year. To be fair, I would have chosen either this or the following song to open the semi-final, but Ireland has never opened a semi-final before, and I thought it would be an interesting concept to see how we would fare in the contest if we were to open the semi-final, especially with this kind of song. Although we never really tend to qualify out of a semi-final when we are placed in the first half. But of course Bambi Thug and Brian Kennedy were both exceptions to this. So you never know. So in terms of our chances of qualifying, I am slightly hesitant to see us being placed later in the first half. I just don't want us to run the risk of performing before a fan favourite, which in this case is Austria. And even though there is one more bop in this half, I feel like we would immediately be overshadowed if we performed before that as well. But I don't think that'll be likely anyway, because there are a load of traditional sounding songs in this half regardless. Realistically, I don't know if we're actually going to open the semi-final, but I just thought it would be a cool and fun idea to try out. And additionally, it'll be a great fun way to start the party. I am also tremendously eager for us to qualify again, especially after our amazing results from last year. Second in my predictions is Armenia with Survivor by Park. I was also close to putting this first in the running order, as sometimes a good opener for a semi-final doesn't always have to be something that's well liked, but at the same time, it should have a sound that's powerful enough to kick off the show. I feel like you can get away with this more in semi 2, but with the overall quality of the song, I feel like it's more suitable to be placed in the dead spots. But let's face it, it's not going to stand out no matter where it is placed. Country number 3 is Latvia with Berman Laimi by Tautumetas. Out of all the traditional songs in this half, I feel like this is the most laid-back one of the lot, so I feel like it is suitable for this to place early on in the semi-final. From listening back to this song, I don't think it would stand out as much despite the fact that it has its fans, but I'm not completely ruling this out, as their national final performance was excellent. Not every song that is well liked can qualify in Eurovision nowadays, so it will be interesting to see how this will do in May. In the fourth position, I've placed Greece with Astromata by Claudia. This could perform anywhere in this half, but just based on the fact that this sounds like a ballad whilst not being a ballad at the same time, I just think it's ideal to place this somewhere in the middle of this half. Not much else I can say here. At number 5 is Austria with Wasted Love by JJ. Just because it's one of the fan favourites, this should ideally be placed at the end of the first half. However, I do remember putting Nemo at the exact position in my predictions from last year, but they ended up performing for it. Not saying that Not saying that JJ would do the same, but just because of how atmospheric the ballad is, it will be ideal to place this somewhere in the middle of the first half. But this is definitely going to stand out, no matter which position it's performing in. The song I placed at 6 is Montenegro with Dobrodošli by Nina Zizic. This is one of the more dramatic traditional songs out of this half, but the way this song builds itself up makes me think it could be placed somewhere around the middle as well. The main reason why I placed it in this exact position is to give it a chance to catch the attention of the viewers, as Montenegro rarely seem to stand out with the majority of the public. It's probably not going to stand out regardless, but this usually happens with countries that don't receive as much appeal. Song number 7 is Australia with Milkshake Man by Gojo. This is the only other bop in this half besides Like a Party, but out of the two, this is easily the one you're going to want to hear later on in the semi-final. If people are starting to get bored of constantly hearing traditional songs and ballads in this half, they are surely going to wake up to this. Of course, it might put some people off because of the way Gojo expresses himself in the song, but it's immediately going to stand out with the rest of the viewers just because of how out there it is. And the song I think that will close the first half at position number 8 is Lithuania with Davo Akis by Catharsis. I really want this to qualify, but I don't know if it will. We've seen similar songs like this, for example, Overhem by Gotte receiving a lot of hype from the fans. And even though they just about qualified for the final, they still finished last place. And also, similar thing, as I said with Dobro Dochli earlier on, I also want this to perform later on in the half, just to give it a chance to stand out to a wide range of viewers. The dramatic, apocalyptic elements of the song, as well as the way it builds up throughout, makes it such an empowering way to close off this half. They can still perform very well from what we've seen in their national finals, so who knows, maybe they will qualify in the end? So that's the end of the first half, and now I'm going to move on to the second half. And oh, good lord, this was a tough one to move around for various reasons that I will get into multiple times. The countries performing in this half are Czechia, Israel, Malta, Finland, Denmark, Luxembourg, Georgia, and Serbia. I feel like there is only one way to start off the second half, and that is with Georgia with Freedom by Mariam Shengelia. There are a good couple of generic ballads in this half, and out of them all, this is easily the most generic one out of the lot. It's forgettable, it fails to make a point, and this is easily gonna get lost in the semi. However, Georgia have sent these kinds of songs before, and they are very traditional to them, so I will give them props for that, even if none of these kinds of songs are good, in my opinion. At spot number 10, I've placed Denmark with Hallucination by Sissel. Apart from one song I will come to later, the rest of the songs in this half are of course girl bops. This is probably the most standardized one out of the lot, which is why I'm placing this early on. But it's still an incredibly strong number. Whether she'll get Denmark back into the final or not, we'll have to see in May. But I really hope she does. Before I move on, I don't normally talk about this country for obvious reasons, but hey, it's a prediction, so I'm gonna have to include it somewhere. If you wish to skip this part of the video, you can just click on the timestamp that is appearing on the screen right now. The song that I placed at number 11 is Israel with New Day Will Rise by Uval Raphael. Considering how Hurricane was placed close to the end of the second half last year, I feel like it would be appropriate to place this earlier on, because as a song alone, this is miles weaker than Hurricane. Even if it does, it probably won't have a major effect on its votes, as there's always certain kinds of people who will vote for them anyway. There's also a verse in French for some strange reason, and I just want to separate this with all the other songs in the semi that are sung in French. Moving on to position number 12, which is Malta with Serving Cans. Yes, I will still use that word, even if it's no longer being used for the contest, by Mariana Conte. At this point, you're starting to see a trend here. Generic ballad, girl bop, generic ballad, girl bop. This was my initial idea on how I wanted the running order to be determined in this half. But it also may be difficult, as I felt like there were songs I wanted to move further or backwards, but I just couldn't. In Serving Can's case, I feel like this would be a very appropriate closer. But there's also another strong feminist girl bop in this half that could do that as well. And I just wanted to separate the two just so they don't cancel out each other. Taking everything into consideration though, I feel like Serving Can't should be placed around here. Place number 13 is Serbia with Mila by Prink. Yet another generic ballad that is going to struggle in the semi. There's not that much I want to say here that I haven't already said with Georgia, but this is slightly better. It's not really that much stronger than the previous two ballads by any means, but this is actually more memorable. Also felt like I wanted to separate this from Montenegro as far away as possible, just to give both of those ballads their own chance to shine in the semi. But they're probably still going to give 12 points to each other anyways. At position 14 is Luxembourg with La Pupi Monte le Son by Laura Thorne. Ideally, this should open the second half, but as I said with the previous country, I just wanted to separate all the French songs apart. This is also another feminist girl bop, but it is a lot more child-friendly compared to the other two. Even if Like a Party gets distributed into a position later on in the first half, it will be more ideal for this to perform as late in the semi as possible, just so those two songs do not cancel each other out. But hey, I can see a world where both Ireland and Luxembourg will qualify, but as of now, neither of them are dead certain. Country number 15, I've placed Czechia with Kiss Kiss Goodbye by Adonix. This is the only song in this half that is neither a girl bop nor a generic ballad. Although I would more so call this a mid-tempo song rather than a ballad, this immediately stands out of all the other ballads in this half by a large margin. There's also a very random dance break in the song, so I don't think it would be fair to place this right next to Malta, as I feel like the chorus of Serving Can't kind of feels like a dance break within itself. And lastly, closing off the second semi-final at position 16 is of course Finland with Ik Komma by Erika Fickman. The fans love this, I love this, the arena is gonna hype her up, and I presume locals are going to be amazed. Erika Fickman absolutely delivered in UMK, and I have no doubt that she is going to do the same in Basel. The song is very complex, but every element works to its advantage, and it is the perfect way to end the semis on an ultimate high. Apart from putting Czechia near the end of my predictions, the one key factor to putting this as the closer instead of Malta is the huge microphone that Erika stands on at the end of her UMK performance, presuming that it's also going to be used in her performance in Basel, of course. Nevertheless, this is easily going to stand out, especially in a televote only semi. And lastly, I will look at the automatic qualifiers voting in the semi and decide where they should be placed. And those countries are Germany, France and the United Kingdom. Germany is sending Baller by Aber und Tina. Considering that it's coming from Germany, I don't know how well this is going to fare competition-wise. In saying this, this is still an incredibly solid banger that's going to get the crowd going and get attention from the viewers at home. Just because the first half doesn't have that many bops apart from Like a Party and Milkshake Man, I am easily going to distribute this into this half in between Greece and Austria. Next up we have France with Maman by Luan. This decade alone, France really are proving that they are on track for another win in a few years' time. Barbara Pravi came second, Saman came fourth. I don't know if Luan is going to take the crown for them this year, but I still believe that she is going to do incredibly well in the final. Whilst this is still a strong ballad, this feels a bit more radio friendly than the previous two songs I have mentioned prior. Also, considering that I put Luxembourg near the end, I'm going to place this within the middle, in between Georgia and Denmark. Lastly, United Kingdom is sending What the Hell Just Happened by Remember Monday. It's always incredibly difficult to predict how the UK would fare in the contest, particularly when they send relatively unknown artists. Sometimes it can come across as too safe or too gimmicky, particularly in recent years. This is not the case with Remember Monday. Yes, there's a load of switching between genres and humorous lyrics, but their vocals are strong enough for people to take this on seriously. I definitely see an audience for this, so I don't really see this coming bottom 5. This probably has a lot of climactic elements that makes it appropriate enough for this to place near the end of the semi. I placed it in between Serbia and Luxembourg. To give you a recap of the running order, I have compiled a finalized list of my predictions, and they are as follows: Ireland, Armenia, Latvia, Greece, Germany, Austria, Montenegro, Australia, Lithuania, Georgia, France, Denmark, Israel, Malta, Serbia, United Kingdom, Luxembourg, Czechia, and Finland. Now let's see how accurate my predictions were and see what the official running order is like. Okay, so this bit is recorded on the same day I recorded my reactions to the official running order for Semi 1, so now I'm going to talk about the official running order for Semi-Final 2. Before I go through my thoughts, here is the official running order for Semi-Final 2. Not going to lie, Australia wasn't necessarily the opening song I'd expected, but I've seen other people predict that it would open the show, and I do get it actually. To have a good opener, you have to start out with a bang. And besides Ireland and Armenia, I couldn't really see much songs that could start off the show properly. So if I were to list any other song, then Australia is a fair choice. Also, Montenegro's second. Ouch! And from all the comments I've seen from the second semi-final, literally everyone is shook that Montenegro's second. But yeah, I never really thought Montenegro were going to stand out anyway, and now their chances of standing out is going down even further. Ireland are third, and I'm actually really happy with this. Yeah, it would be nice to see us perform first and open the semi-final, but if we weren't, I think third is a very appropriate placing for us. And it's nice to have us sandwiched in between lots of other songs that are borderline rather than placing us before a fan favourite. We don't get Austria until 3 songs later, as we are performing right after Montenegro, and then after us we have Latvia and Armenia, and from that alone, I think we do have a bit of a chance to stand out. I still probably have to wait for the rehearsals and the pre-parties to have a clearer opinion on whether we would qualify or not, but for now I have hope. Austria 6, I'm happy with that as well. I didn't think it would be there because Austria were also placed 6th last year with Real Rave, but this has happened before where a country would place in the exact same spot in its semi-final 2 years in a row. We've seen that with Croatia in 2023 and 2024, and we've seen it with a few other countries this year as well. I'm kind of glad Greece is late enough in its half because it'll probably give it a more chance for it to stand out. And I did suspect Lithuania would close, and I'm so delighted that it is. Depending on how the staging goes, I think Lithuania might just squeeze in, depending on how things go on the night. In terms of the second half, it's a bit of a hit or miss. It was always hard to move around the songs based on song quality and song genres. Even though Kant opening the second half might be a bit of a surprise, I get why. I think the reason why I didn't consider putting it that early in the semi was because of broadcasting regulations on censorship, but now that the word is taken out, I feel like it is appropriate to probably open up this second half, I suppose. I am so glad that Georgia is performing early. I don't think anyone would really vote for it unless they're neighbouring countries. I actually find it really hard to say something nice about Georgia, and I kind of feel like I want to, but after that we have Denmark, which is a bit earlier than usual, but I kind of expected it to be early enough. I think Denmark's chances could be boosted if they would have been placed later, but I'll take its position. Probably the biggest surprise in the second half is Czechia's placing. I thought it'd be placed much later on because of how it compares to all the other ballads in the second half. I kind of expected Luxembourg to perform later on, but I'm also glad that it's not too late, as it might possibly overshadow us in a way. Considering what is following Luxembourg, it might have a chance to qualify. Turns out Israel is in the exact same place as last year. Not much else I can say here, really. I think out of all the ballads in the second half, I think Serbia is probably the most appropriate to put late. It probably wouldn't be ideal to put them second last, but I can see why. But what I will say is that EBU, you did an incredible job for putting Finland last. I'm really happy that Finland is closing, and I think Erica will do a phenomenal job in Basel. In terms of the AQs, I did not expect the United Kingdom to be placed this early at all. I think of all the AQs in the semi, the United Kingdom's probably the hardest one to get around on the first listen. It is definitely a song you have to listen to multiple times to like fully get on board. So I think in terms of that, it probably makes sense. I kind of knew France would be in the middle anyway. Also, I'm really impressed that Germany's like the third last song to perform. Considering the amount of like ballads we have near the end, I think it is a good way to balance them all out. So overall, I am really impressed, especially with where Ireland is placed, and Australia and Finland are very good openers and closers. I think the second half could be arranged a lot more neatly, but like, I think out of the two running orders, I think this is probably the one that is a lot more polished. So that is the end of my semi-final running order predictions and my initial reactions. What are your overall thoughts on the lineup for semi-final 2? What were your predictions and how accurate were they? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to also give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Anyway, that's the end of the video, and hopefully I will see you next time. Goodbye!